Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if you haven't been here before, I am Bella, and if you have been here before and you are not subscribed, you should probably do that right about now because you already came back. So you've seen my face twice and you're still not subscribed, so I'm kind of confused, so you should probably just do that. Also, make sure to follow my Instagram. It'll be right here on the screen. I always try to post on there as much as possible, and I definitely love keeping up with you guys on there. It's definitely a fun way to interact and just to keep up with me. So let's just get right into the video. This video idea actually stemmed from this morning. So my boyfriend watches Joe Rogan's podcast on YouTube. I don't really listen to his podcast or watch it. It's not something that I go for, but when it is on in the background, obviously I'm kind of paying attention, and my boyfriend had brought up to me, he goes, oh, well, Joe Rogan just posted this podcast with Abigail Shrier. I don't know how to pronounce her name. And my boyfriend goes, oh, they're talking about hormones with young trans people. And so obviously I was getting ready for work and I just kind of was tuning in, I was just kind of listening. When I heard some of the stuff that they were saying, it started to literally infuriate me. And I started to get very upset, and I was actually yelling, I was getting so angry. And then he goes, why don't you just film a YouTube video about it? And I was like, you're right, I should. I truly feel like this is such a sensitive topic, and so many people have so many opinions on trans people transitioning super young and hormones in people under 18, and I have my own opinions on that. What I'm going to preface this video with is the two people sitting down right now in this podcast with Joe Rogan and Abigail. They are both cis, what seems to be straight, white people. Okay, so we have a cis, straight, white woman that wrote a book. Abigail Shrier wrote a book about the dangers and things of hormones and young people. I just want to preface that, okay, that neither of these people are trans and neither of these people are a minority, and they don't know what that feels like. I don't know these people's exact life story, so I am making an assumption based on that. Oh my God, I'm already getting heated about it, but I just want to preface that and say that neither of these people are trans and neither of these people have experienced any of the dysphoria or anything that comes along with being trans. So I do want to make that really clear. And I do want to say that I would respect it a lot more if it was coming from someone that's trans. I know Blair White has her opinions on this topic. I think someone that is trans that has opinions on young people taking hormones is a lot more respectable than a cis straight white woman. And also I feel like you can have science on your side, you can have a lot of things on your side, but you're not living it, you don't know what it's like, and also there's a lot of variables that go into it. So for you to write a book on something that you haven't experienced, see, that's where you lose me. You had me and then you lost me. So okay, I'm rambling, I'm already getting hype about this. This is gonna be a long video, so if you stick through it through the whole thing, obviously, guys, I want to see your comments. I want to hear your opinions. Let me know what you think. Okay, so what I am going to say is in the first 42 seconds, they're talking about how they do support trans people and they do support trans adults is what they support.
Concern is about very young children.
That teenage girls has nothing to do with adults who are transgender, okay? Many of whom are amazing people. They, went through mental health, therapy, and they decided, they made this decision. They suffered with discomfort in their bodies from the time they were young.
So what I'm going to say about that is she said her concern is specifically with teenage girls. Teenage girls so specifically. Okay, well, what about teenage boys? Why is your only concern teenage girls that want to transition and not teenage boys that want to go from male to female? That is a little bit questionable to me. Specifically teenagers too, not talking about younger children, which I think is interesting because when you're in your teen years, I feel like you're a lot more capable to comprehend your emotions and comprehend the world around you. You're still not fully developed and can't understand things to the full length, but I feel like you are more understanding and more aware of yourself. I do appreciate that she did say that a lot of trans people have gone through mental health evaluations and things along those lines, which is very true. In order to go on hormones, you do need to go through an extensive period of therapy evaluation between a therapist, and then you have to go to an endocrinologist or someone to go for hormones and get evaluated by them before they're prescribed. You need a therapist write-off, which for me took about a year. So there's a lot of different variables that go into that. So I do like that she addressed that.
was the motivation to write this book? And if it's about teenagers, why is there a very young girl on the cover?
Well,
this is like the cover. It looks like
a little girl,
4-year-old.
Right, it does. I mean, I obviously didn't do the cover, but I think the cover is very good because I think it's supposed to evoke what we've lost in a whole generation. Well, yeah,
What is that?
I assume her uterus.
Oh, it's just
infertility
crazy.
is
Looks
what's
like a pillow.
Yeah.
Okay, what I think is strange about that is this girl wrote the book. Abigail wrote the book, but had nothing to do with the cover. You're going to tell me that I'm going to write a book and not know what's going on the cover? I'm not going to approve what's going on the cover? Bitch, I wrote the book! The fuck? That makes absolutely no sense to me. If you're talking about ages 13 to 18 and you put a 4-year-old on the cover, that's a little bit misleading. But okay, let's continue.
A reader wrote to me. I write most often for the Wall Street Journal, and a reader wrote to me and she said, listen, I've tried to get every mainstream journalist to pick this up. No one will touch it, but my daughter got caught up in this. All of a sudden, she went off to college. All of a sudden, with her friends, she had a lot of mental health issues, anxiety, depression, and all of a sudden, with her group of friends, they all decided they're trans, and she went on hormones, and this is happening to parents all across the country. Teenage girls all of a sudden deciding with their friends they're trans, wanting surgeries and hormones and getting them.
Okay, so Abigail Shrier, you have so many good points. I'm really listening to you up here, girl. But what I will say is you said she went off to college. College, okay? So if she's off to college, it means that she graduated high school, and that means that she's at least 18 or about to turn 18 within a month or two, okay? You're talking about children. She literally said these teenagers. Okay, yeah, she's 18 years old, but she's legally an adult. So you're telling me that my friend that's 18 years old that comes to me when she's in college and we're relating on being trans and she decides to finally make those moves to live at her full potential in her full life is not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay because she's still a teenager. Bitch, I can enroll in the military. I can get deployed and fight for our country. I can put my life at risk at 18 years old. I can start smoking cigarettes at 18 years old. I can work a full-time job at 18 years old. And this girl's in college. You mean she chose a school, applied for a school, chose a major, and decided what she wanted to do for the rest of her life and go in thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in debt? So she can make all of those decisions, but not this one. Not this one. And you just said you support adults that are transitioning or transgender, and that they have to go through mental evaluations and they have to go through psychiatrists and therapists and doctors and all this stuff. And she just said surgeries. Bitch, to get a surgery, one, that's a lot of money, and two, you need to go through insurance. And if you're that young and you're in college, you're on your parents' insurance, I'm assuming. And all of these things. There's so many hoops that you have to jump through in order to even get to the point of going on hormones. And you're telling me a group of friends, yeah, they do have support groups for things. Maybe it was a bunch of people, whether it was girls, men, whoever, that are all questioning or in the LGBTQ community, and they all lump together because they understand each other. They get each other. I don't think that a group of cis, straight, whatever, even if you're lesbian or whatever you are, a bunch of cis women are gonna get together and be like, ooh, let's all transition because that's trendy. You're telling me that you're gonna go through all of those struggles, all of that pain, hormone therapy, which is a struggle in itself, body modification, just to be trendy? And 18 or 19 is too young, because those are the ages you're talking about if she's in college. She said that she is typically an opinion journalist. She's not a scientist. She's not a therapist. She's not a psychiatrist. She's not a doctor. She's not a surgeon. She doesn't have a trans daughter or a trans son. She's not trans. Her partner isn't trans. You're an opinion journalist, and you're writing a book on why it's bad for youth to be on hormones. Let's continue. I'm literally only 2 minutes and 30 seconds into this video, and I'm already freaking out. It infuriates me. It gets so annoying. This video is going to be long, so I'm so sorry for that, but it is.
I think it's happening.
So these are the same girls that would have been anorexic, they would have been bulimic, and they are high anxiety, very precocious girls, but they don't really fit in. They come to high school and they don't have friends. They don't have a clique for them. and they're so smart and they're so lonely because they're on the internet all the time and they're with mom all the time and they don't fit in at school. And this is a way to understand their pain that they're really feeling. They're in pain, but they decide that their problem is that they're supposed to be a boy and the fix is testosterone.
Okay, so my opinion on that is that there is not enough help for people that are young that are going through mental health issues. They don't have enough support. In that situation, you can fixate on the fact that you need to be a boy or that testosterone is going to fix all of your problems, regardless if you're anorexic, bulimic, transgender, extreme anxiety, panic disorder, fucking schizophrenic, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, multiple personality disorder, whatever you are, you should be put into therapy, not to fix you, but to learn about yourself, to understand yourself, to get evaluated by a professional that has gone to school for that. So I don't think that at any point, if a girl is suffering with all those problems and they don't fit in and they go into therapy and they say, hey, I think I'm supposed to be a boy and I need to go on testosterone, there should be a year-long duration period of therapy, evaluation, talking. A therapist should be able to decipher if a girl is trying to use this escape route of testosterone or what her actual real deep-rooted problems are. That to me is just so generalized. Like no therapist should be like, oh, you're right, sweetie. After like 5 sit-downs with them and be like, you're right, testosterone's the way to go. It's testosterone. Let's do it. Let's spin it up. Let's do it. Like, I'm sorry. Then we have a larger fucking problem about therapists and psychiatrists in the world. I hope I'm making sense. I really do. I really do.
Oh, I spent maybe a month or so just hearing the reports of the parents and reading the original study. There's an original study that the book is, jumps off from, which is the Lisa Littman paper at Brown University. She's a public health researcher who looked into this. And she found that there was all of a sudden this huge epidemic in America of teenage girls deciding they were trans with their friends after social media emerged and pushing for hormones and surgeries.
Now, with that, do you think that large explosion of girls that are coming out as transgender might just be because they see people living the way that they want to live? That they're exposed to a world that they've never been exposed to and it feels right to them? Do you think that's what it is? Or do you generally think that these girls just think that testosterone is going to fix all their problems and then they're just like, yep, testosterone, let's do it? Or is it because they're getting exposure to another way of life that they've been sheltered from? Is that it? I'm just a little bit confused on that. I'm a little bit confused. And being a part of the trans community, I have not really seen influencers or social media about people saying testosterone is the way to go and testosterone fixes things. Just go on testosterone, it'll be okay. I have not seen that. I've not witnessed that. Granted, I'm more on the male to female side of social media, but still.
Have you had a conversation about this with someone who's a trans activist that says, well, maybe what's really going on, I mean, I'm just taking the argument of it. Maybe what's going on is there are a lot of trans women and there would be more. Or there's a lot of women who would turn trans, become a man. There would be more, but they never had that door open to them before. And that maybe there's more trans people than we think.
Amazing.
Yes, Joe.
Amazing. So it's a great point, and I thought about it because I tried to look. I'm a journalist. I like to look at ideas in both sides. I did not have a dog in this race. So let me tell you 3 reasons I don't think that's compelling.
Okay, let me know,
Number
girl.
1, when Lisa Littman looked at the prevalence rate, she found that it's 70 times what we would expect within a friend group, which means it's
within a friend group. So that part is like where I'm a little bit lost because I'm relatively young. I know family members that are in school. I know friends, families that are in school, and at no point have I heard about this, that there are groups of girls that are just transitioning together. I feel like we would also see that on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat. If a group of girls was going to do it, I feel like they were going to do it and try to do it for clout. I have not seen that. I could be wrong. I literally could be so wrong. So I will admit that, but I think it's kind of strange that they're saying that it's happening in friend groups. Where? When? Let me know down in the comments below if you have seen that, if you know what's going on if maybe I'm missing something, because I could totally be wrong about that. I will admit that, but that's just my thought process on that.
Highly concentrated in groups of friends. But there's two other reasons. So we wouldn't expect that if it were randomly distributed among the population. But there are two other reasons I don't think that's right. Number one, if we're just reverting to normal now that there's greater societal acceptance, right? We're just reverting to a normal base rate of transgender women. Why are all the women in their...
Wouldn't they be called transgender men? I'm going to be nitpicky right now because I'm on like a fucking high ass, like I'm on some. Like, I'm not just on 1, bitch. I'm on 10 right now. If you've done all of the research, a trans woman is me, male to female. A trans man is female to male. Terminology wrong, but let's continue.
40s and 60s coming out as trans. They should be coming out. Now's their time. Now's their moment. We should see tons of women in their 40s and 60s and so on coming out as transgender. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing this...
Okay, the reason that these older people aren't coming out is because a lot of them have already set up their entire life. People have children, people have husbands or wives, or people have families, or they have careers, and these older people don't feel like it's okay to come out. They feel sheltered, they have to hide it, they have to put it away into the back box in their mind, and they can't accept it. Are you kidding me? That is ridiculous. Those people grew up in a different time. They understand it's accepted, but they still don't feel comfortable with it. They've never been comfortable with it their entire life. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so they had just said that these people that are dealing with mental health that don't really fit in, that have a chunk of themselves missing, that they go towards being trans to complete themselves and make themselves feel whole. Now, my opinion on that is, in order to get on hormones, in order to transition medically, you need to go to a therapist. You need to be evaluated, and you need to live life as a male or a female. Before I was prescribed hormones, I had to start dressing female. I had to start changing names and things like that, changing pronouns. I had to start, wearing dresses as a senior in high school when I had been presenting male my entire school career before that. In my last year of school, I just started changing the way that I dressed and presenting as female. And I cannot imagine a person going through all those struggles, all of that embarrassment, all of those anxietal moments, literally tears shed before I got on the fucking bus or in my friend's car to go to school the first time I was wearing a dress. Literal crippling anxiety to do that because I was so scared to put myself out there. You're telling me that those people with underlying health conditions are going to feel whole by going through all of that? They're going to feel accepted? They're going to get on hormones? If they get through going to a therapist after going through all of that, maybe they're really trans. And if they're not, the therapist and the psychiatrist should recognize that and catch on to that and steer them in a direction of a positive way to feel whole, a positive activity, a sport, and a group, a community, a something, I feel like that makes more sense.
About this, like, how do we know? How do you know that that's what's going to do it? And when you are doing that, what damage is being done? So, well, it's one thing if someone's a 25-year-old woman and they say, I have always wanted to be a man, and I think I'm a man. I think I'm born in the wrong body. But when you're going through this developmental cycle from 17, 18, 19, 20, there is a lot of chaos.
Right.
There's a lot of hormonal chaos. There's a lot of confusion. I don't think there's anything specifically that you could point to that could say some sort of an intervention chemically, some sort of if you just step in now and start injecting this body with male hormones, this is going to fix all your problems.
I don't know where they're getting this misconception that you can just go get injections of hormones. I don't know where that is being allowed. That should not be happening. There should be proper psych and mental evaluation. And if that's not happening, that's on the practice. That's on the doctor. That's on the psychiatrist. That's on the therapist. And you're right, but what by saying that, you're saying when you're 18, 19, 20, there's so many things going on. Like, yeah, there is. So what are you saying, that people shouldn't be allowed to transition until they're 21? That people shouldn't be allowed on hormones till they're 21? Then push the fucking army, military age up to 21. Okay? Push tobacco up to 21. For them to say that, like, an 18, 19, 20 is like a crazy chaotic age, you're right. But then to say, like, at 21 or 25, like, if you want to transition, like, that's mentally fucking crippling. If you go from age, like, let's say you know that you're trans at age 4 to age 25, you're living such a massive chunk of your life in some of the most fun years of your life, depending on who you are and how you live your life. But, like, some of the most fun years of your life in the wrong body, feeling wrong the entire time. That is ridiculous. Push full-time jobs until 25 then. Because what? Push college until 25. Because if I can't make a decision to suit me for the rest of my life, then I shouldn't be able to make all these other massive fucking decisions, because clearly I'm incapable. Maybe I'm taking this way too personally, but, like, this topic just, like, infuriates me. It really, really does.
Yeah, it's really popular to do that.
It's really popular. These girls are getting it on their own diagnosis. So they're just going in and self-diagnosing. Nobody questions it. We now have informed consent, which means you walk into Planned Parenthood, you sign a waiver, you decide you have gender dysphoria, you walk out that day with testosterone.
Now, that's the problem. I agree with that. Like, you should not be able to walk into a place and self-diagnose and be like, hey, I'm trans, give me hormones. That should not be a thing. There needs to be steps put in place. You need to be like, hey, I feel this way. I need to go to therapy, whether it's 6 months or a year, whether you need to be presenting for 6 months or a year, whatever it is. There needs to be rules put in place for that, because that should not be happening. That actually reflects bad on the community, and I will admit to that. Also, what I will say is, if there were rules put in place where people couldn't decide until they're 21 or this, that, and the other, people are going to be getting hormones other ways. If you're not going to let someone under 18 transition the proper way, then, like, then they're going to be ordering hormones from other countries. They're going to be going off the black market to be getting these hormones, and who knows what they're going to be putting into their body. Then we're going to have a whole different fucking epidemic of people that are trans dying because they're putting fake chemicals into their body. Abigail had mentioned this girl that had transitioned. Everyone praised her for transitioning, and then basically she was on testosterone, and then testosterone caused, like, uterine cramping, and then she had to get a hysterectomy, and then woke up and said her mental health hadn't improved and that this was all a huge mistake. Now, detransitioning is a thing that does happen, and that is just a factor. Like, there's a percentage of people that do detransition, and that is life. Sometimes things don't work out, and I hate to say that, but, like, you can't put limitations on everyone that isn't going to detransition because of the people that did detransition. And also I have to say that if that therapist that she went to said that she's definitely a man, there's something going on there, and that person should get looked out. And also, you can't look to transitioning to help your mental health. That's not why you do it. Like, yes, to a certain extent it does, but it's more to make yourself feel whole. You're still going to have X, Y, and Z mental health issues, but at least this way you are who you want to be. You are who you feel like you are. You still have to work on anxiety, you still have to work on panic disorder, you still have to work on depression, all those things, but at least you are who you feel like you are, and you're portraying the inside on the outside.
So I interview parents, and they'll tell me they're almost all politically progressive, okay? Most of the parents that call me are politically progressive, and I interviewed almost 5 dozen of them now. And they'll tell me, like, I support LGBTQ, but I'm not sure this is right for my daughter. Like, I don't think she's really gender dysphoric. She's getting worse. Like, what is going on here?
She's getting worse. Like, I get it. Like, transitioning can make you worse, and it's not for everybody, and maybe this is a portion of people, and I do agree with that. I do agree that not everyone should look to transitioning to fix everything, but I think that's also part of the thing that, like, should be educated. Is, like, this is not something that to fix all of your problems. This is to get you to be whole while you work on the rest of your problems.
I'll say to them, would you take away her binder? You know, binder is that compression garment they wear to flatten their breasts. and they'll say to me, oh, I can't do that. I mean, I support LGBTQ and whatnot. And I'll say to her, sometimes I'll say to them, would you give her cigarettes? Why don't you give her cigarettes?
Give her cigarettes? I don't think that a binder and cigarettes are necessarily the same. That would be like me wearing a gaff and my family saying, I don't think she's trans. And then the person's like, we'll take away her gaff. And they're like, no. And then they're like, oh, give her cigarettes. I'm sorry, what? I don't see the correlation there. See, Abigail, you lost me. You lost me there just a little bit.
The binder will deform breast tissue. It can cause rib cracking. It can cause shortness of breath.
Yeah, so can waist trainers. So can Spanx. So can so many things that cis women wear that are typically accepted by society. So, just saying.
I wasn't aware of these binders. So this is something like a corset.
Also, if a girl's wearing a binder and going through all that pain and going through that struggle of putting that on every day and the awkwardness of that, I think that says volumes about the person, for sure. Absolutely. It does, like about transitioning and their mental health and how bad they want it, in my opinion.
Absolutely right. So I talk about this in my book. I interviewed this young woman, Benji, who was going through a really hard time in middle school, really hard. And at 13, she got really into these YouTube trans stars and who promised testosterone is like the greatest thing ever. And she decided to start an account on one of the social media, sites, and she came out as trans. And everybody congratulated her. This is a girl who was lonely. Everyone was telling her, this is yours. You should be. I'm so proud of you. Yeah. I'm there for you. I'm your glitter family. And a lot of them were adults. And lo and behold, she waits till all of a sudden they start asking for things like pictures.
Okay, so she said a young girl went online, came out as trans. Everyone praised her, and then everyone started asking her for pictures, and it was inappropriate. I hate to break it to you, sweetie. That's online as a whole. That's YouTube, that's Instagram, that's Snapchat, that's Facebook, that's Instagram, that's literally like Twitter, everything. Like, that's just being online, whether you're trans or not trans. Like, there are going to be weirdos that ask you for pictures and do stuff like that. Like, there's no way to get away from that. But I don't think that getting praise for being a minority and coming out and really coming into your own, I don't think anything's wrong with that. I think the bigger issue that you have to face is if someone is detransitioning, they only did that for attention, like, there's a bigger problem there. And it's not the trans community. It's not for us to be accepting and to be open-minded. I don't think that's the issue at all. In this video, she talks about how young girls try to like empathize with their friends and stuff and take on their friends' emotions, and how she assimilates, is that the right word? She makes it seem like cutting, anorexia, and transitioning are the same thing. Now, for everyone watching this, you've probably watched my channel before. Do you think that cutting, anorexia, and transitioning are the same thing? Like, they're saying that it's another way of self-harm for girls that have mental health issues. Just let that sit with you for a second, okay? Just let it sit for a second. Okay, she's starting to talk about influencers. I'm like trying to watch this and only commentate on the parts that are relevant to transitioning.
Other thing, you have these trans influencers and they promise these girls that if they just go on T, everything will get better. And
I would love to see some clips of that. I would love to see some clips in context of go on T, your mental health will be perfect. Yay, like, can't wait. Like, I would love to see that because I can't imagine that that's a thing. I could see it in the concept of go on T, like, you're gonna feel so much better with your transition. You're gonna feel whole. You're gonna feel amazing. That would be like me saying, yes, girl, go on estrogen. Like, get that shit. Like, you've been working so hard. Like, yay. That's completely different than me being like, yeah, go on estrogen. Like, everything's gonna get better, which is actually a lie because estrogen fucks you up. But, like, you know what I'm saying.
Why do you think they do that?
Okay, so why do they? A couple reasons. So one is testosterone has certain good effects. So it delivers a euphoria, and it suppresses anxiety. And anxiety is one of their biggest problems. So they go on it and they feel great. And they can't wait to tell their friends. It makes their period go away and it redistributes fat. So now these girls feel...
Okay, bitch, Abigail! So, okay, I'm like getting hype over this fucking comment because you're right. Testosterone does help suppress anxiety. But what I will say is it redistributes fat. Do you want to know how the male body carries fat? In their stomach and in their thighs is where the male body typically carries fat. So that means that if you are a woman transitioning to a male and you are on hormones, your boobs are going to get smaller, your stomach is going to get bigger, your hips and your ass are going to get smaller, and your thighs are going to get bigger. It redistributes fat. Yeah. To all the fucking places you don't want it to be. The fuck? Oh my god. I just can't even. I can't even. I know I'm kind of trying to make this like a little bit comical, bring some light to it. It's like a very serious topic, but I'm trying to just like bring a little something to it. But like literally, it redistributes fat in all of the wrong ways, okay? When you go from testosterone to estrogen, which is what I did, it makes your breasts bigger. It sometimes can affect your hips, but typically not too good. Gives you more of a waist. Testosterone makes you literally look like a rectangle, like a literal rectangle. So basically, Abigail had said that most of these people that have experienced gender dysphoria, if you leave them alone and let them process it, they will typically grow out of it. If you just leave them alone and let them work through it, they'll get out of it. And my opinion on that is, yeah, if you don't deal with those problems, they're going to think that it's not okay. They're going to think that it's not accepted. They're going to think that it's not okay for them, that their family doesn't accept them, their friends don't accept them, and that it's going to be a really difficult thing for them to process. So they're just going to force themselves to grow out of it and not think that that's okay, because you're not dealing with that side of yourself. And Abigail also said most kids that have experienced gender dysphoria, either they grow out of it or they come out as homosexual, and then that's just like the end all be all for them. And I think that can be a stepping stone for some people, and I think maybe some people will do that and just think that that's just enough happiness in order to get them by in life, but that's not the full conclusion, and maybe that works for some people and not for others. And Joe had also made a comment that said making the decision at 17 basically seems a little bit young, and that at 17, how do you know that? My thing is I made that decision at 17. I started hormones when I was 18, pretty much freshly 18. And I don't know the difference between 17 and 18. Really, like what's the major difference between that age? I don't see much of a difference. And if you know at 17, you're going to know at 18. And I don't think that it's that big of a deal. Maybe it's because that's my own personal experience and that's what I dealt with. But that's my opinion. I think at 17, you can be knowledgeable enough on topics and on yourself and gender and transitioning to know if that's really you or not. And then also, Abigail had said there's no medical oversight. I guess there are some states that vary where you can go in and you can just get hormones based on your own self-diagnosis. I don't think that should be allowed, and I don't think that that's appropriate. I think there should be medical examining from therapists and psychiatrists and all that stuff, and I'm beating a dead horse or whatever the saying is at this point by saying that, but I really think that that's super important. And then also children on hormone blockers, and why do people need hormones if they're young and they want to transition? Like, how do you know that once you get estrogen you're going to feel complete and you're going to be a woman and you've never experienced that hormone in your life and getting surgeries and then you're a woman? But Joe was like, well, if you're a woman, I'll just call you a woman and you could be a woman, but you can keep your hormones. I don't agree with that. I mean, necessarily, like, hormones are a hard thing and you never know what you're going to get with that, and there's so many complications and there's so many hardships that come with it, mentally, physically, all of it. But I think that when you're transitioning, you just want to fully feel like the gender that you are. And I think taking hormones is a big part of that, and the physical attributes that can give you is huge. And also surgery, yeah, you want to be able to present what you feel on the inside on the outside. You want to be able to navigate day-to-day society and day-to-day life by, like, living like that. Like, you want to be perceived like that. You just want to be another woman. You know what I mean? You don't want to look like a man and just be like, yeah, I'm a woman. Like, that's not how life works. That would be the most depressing, sad life to live. It really, really, really would. It really would. Gail had also stated that there's 19 laws for conversion, and basically a therapist can lose their license if they say, hey, I know you think that you're transgender, but let's deal with these problems, and these might be the solution, that they could lose their license for that. I think that that's really fucked up, and I think that there should be other laws put in place where you should be able to explore all of the options before jumping to one specific conclusion. So I do agree with that, and I really do think that the laws and things with mental health and therapists and psychiatrists need to be a little bit stricter on hormones and things like that, especially for people under the age of 18, for sure. The majority of young people in high school that are experiencing gender dysphoria are teenage girls, which I do think is a little bit strange. But also they're saying that the vast majority of people getting gender surgeries are females, so I'm assuming they mean female to male based on the whole podcast. And I think that that is a little bit strange to me, but also you have to think about how many, so you have to think about that that's like very current. So like in the past, it was definitely male to female. So maybe it's just the fact that female to male is becoming more normalized, and now it's a lot more accepted, and maybe that's like their way of just finally coming into their own. I think that there's a lot of variables with that. So my general consensus of this whole thing is that I feel like there needs to be better therapist and psychiatrist evaluations for these people before they can get hormones. I think they need to be living day to day as female or male. They need to be evaluated, and they need to be transitioning for a period of time before they're given the right of hormones and they have a write-off from a doctor. Those laws and those situations need to be changed if those aren't already being put in place. That was my experience and what I had seen, and that was the generalized experience of a lot of people that I knew that are trans. So that was my opinion and my perception of this, but it seems like maybe there's certain areas where you can just go sign up for hormones. I think anyone over the age of 18 should be able to legally make their own decisions medically and life-wise of what they choose to do, as long as they're presented with all of the negative effects of that as well. And I truly think as when it comes to children, once again, it just needs to be evaluated by a professional, someone that went to school for this, someone that knows this, someone that can evaluate anxiety, depression, and all of these other aspects in addition to gender dysphoria and transitioning. That's my opinion on this. Truly, I'm not going to keep going with this. This is already a super long video. If you want to watch the Joe Rogan podcast, the title of it is Joe Rogan Experience number 1509, Abigail Shrier. Totally watch it. It's an hour and 45 minutes, so it is pretty long. But I just kind of wanted to share some of my opinions on that, my experiences and all of that. They talk about a lot of other stuff, not just hormones with young people, but just overall statistics that are really interesting. But I just kind of wanted to address the hormones with young people, especially teenagers, and get my opinion out there on that. I hope this video made sense. I hope you guys like this. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to comment, give this video a like, and follow my Instagram. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye, guys.